News Hub, I'm Jules Eastbridge.
Here are the words every timeshare owner.
Here we are live on Tiger Talk here on the Hull and Back podcast and on Humber Wave Radio. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We was hoping that it might be a bit of a news night, but unfortunately it's not. So we've got tonight me, Aidy Wright. We'll go to the left.
Me, Ant Northgraves.
We'll go down.
Me, Christian Sorensen.
All right.
And then we've got Paul Wright. Yes, all four of us are on the podcast tonight. No Joe tonight. He's gone and he's made a great escape. See what I did there? Anyway, Paul, you've got a question to ask us to start off tonight's show.
Well, yeah, I've got three wizards on football, so you all know. But my question is, and I'll give you the reason why, is what makes a championship footballer? Because we were sat on Sunday watching the game, and there's two fellas sat behind us. They're there regular, obviously. But, well, one of them's always, the other team's always brilliant, and we're always rubbish, which probably is this season has been. But one of them said, Coyle isn't a championship player. And I just wonder... I mean, Adrian, to be fair, Adrian turned around and said, well, it was our player of the year. We finished 7th in the championship last year. It can't be that bad. But I want to know, because it's not been just said about Coyle. I think Regan Slater's had it said about him. I think Ryan Longman's had it said about him, Sean McLaughlin. And I just want to know what your views are on what makes a championship player versus a League One player. Because I presume he wasn't saying he's too good for the championship. He was making out he wasn't good enough. So... What is what is your thoughts on what makes a championship player versus a League One player? Because you might hear it all the time, don't you? He's not a championship player. There must be something. They got 6 toes on each foot or something like that. Championship players, and I don't know.
The obvious difference that someone will be trying to go for is that a championship player is, in terms of technical ability and whatever, is obviously superior to someone who's in League One. To claim that Coyle is not a championship player, I think is absolutely atrocious because he's easily our best and probably most consistent performer and has been for the last 2 years or so. And I think that, yeah, maybe for what, he lacks in pace and quality and stuff, he certainly makes up for in work rate, endeavour. He chucks his body on the line. I mean, he played half of last season with a broken nose all the time. Like, what do you want from it? I mean, me as a fan, I want to watch 11 players go out on that pitch and run their socks off for 90 minutes. Non-stop. You can forgive losing if it's just a lack of quality, but you can't ever forgive a lack of effort. And I think there's a lot of our players, Slater's included in that will always go out there and give 110%, the best of his ability. Greg Docherty was a player that was similar to that as well. And that to me, you can be a footballer at any level as long as you're willing to work hard and try and improve. I mean, how many players did we have that we went from Division 3 to the Premier League? We had Ryan Francie and Ashby, Boas Mail. There's loads of players, Andy Dawson, that went from the bottom to the top, and they made that step up each time. So, they're just going on face value of technical ability.
I think it's a stupid thing to say about somebody. If they said they aren't as good as, I don't know, Carl Walker or somebody like that, you're judging them against somebody, which I can understand because they're saying technically they're better. But to say carte blanche, he isn't a championship player, I think it is such a stupid statement that you're not, what is a championship player? So I think it is a stupid statement myself, Then maybe technically if they aren't good enough, that's fair enough, but you can't say championship players are all good, apart from one or two that aren't good. Like they move up, as you said, they move up the divisions, and some of them make the step up. Jamie Vardy is obviously one of them, isn't he? He made the step up from non-league right to winning the Premier League. So,
yeah, I agree. I agree with what Tony says as well. I'd rather have a team of Slaters and Coyles rather than the current mercenaries. Yeah, it's not a bad one. What's your thoughts, Christian?
No, it's exactly as we just said. It's always about the quality of the individual versus somebody else, isn't it? You can't turn around and say they're not going to be good enough for the championship. Like you said, Coyle's he's a workhorse. You know, you can't have somebody that's not that type of like mentality and professionalism and say that they're not a championship player. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I agree. Like, look, you can't if you're comparing players, like say Carl Walker versus, then it makes sense. But to say like it's just not a championship player at all, it's nuts. It is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been through thick and thin. He's really professional. He gives it his all, and that's all you can ask from any sort of championship player. I mean, a championship player at the end of the day is a player that wants to play in the Premier League. It's as simple as that. And you're telling me anybody in the championship right now just doesn't want to play in the Premier League? Of course they do. So, yeah, to compare it saying it's not a championship player, it's just nuts. It is nuts.
Yeah, I did lose my patience a little bit with him, and I said, you are joking, aren't you?" And he wasn't joking. He was serious. And I'm saying, well, last season he was close to Player of the Season. This season he's got to be close to Player of the Season from the start he's had again, because you know you get a new player in like Drama. You expect Drama to come in and be probably your first choice right back for the season. And Coyle just seems to have stepped up again and fitted into the way that Volta wants us to play. And, you know, he's probably played the Volta system best out of anybody that's on the pitch, to be quite honest with you. So thanks for all these comments. I really like all these comments that are coming in. They're amazing, because I'm with you. I mean, with what the comments earlier was, if you had 10 or 11 Louis Coyles or Regan Slaters on your pitch every week, we probably would be in a better position than we are at the moment. Ryan Longman's another one that you mentioned, Dad. And, you know, he had a good pre-season. When he came on Sunday, he looked good again. He did some good work for us on Sunday, and he could step in where Baloomies unfortunately had to step out due to injury. So, yeah, I mean, I was frustrated with him, and we had a little bit of a disagreement in me and the guys behind. But you know, it's one of them. It's all about opinions. Is football, but you know, to say Louis Cole's not a championship player, I said to them both, you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys all know that I'm probably out of us four here. I am the most kind of critical when it comes to Louis Coyle. You know, I do say my bit on him, and I don't mean it as in, how can I put it? It's nothing to do with his performance at all. It's nothing to do with his effort. It's nothing about to do with his heart. I will say sometimes his decision making with how he plays is a bit off for me, but then that's my personal way of how I see a right back playing. But in the style of Walters, where we say we build from the back, even though we play to the back, it works how he's playing at the moment in the Walters style, going left to right. I do agree with that. But for me personally, I am a big critic of Louis Coyle, but nothing to do with his effort. I will never say that guy does not give 150, 100, 200%.
So
And
would you drop him out the first 11, Christian, at the moment?
At the moment, no, because we don't have anyone. I mean, yeah, all right, we've got Drama who can play there, but I would see him more as a wing back more than a full back if you were going in that type of terms. I mean, look, if you would turn around and say, right, we've got wishful thinking, we've got a new manager, and we're playing three at the back, then that three at the back would include Louis Coyle on that right centre back area definitely. For me, because that's the style of player he is. He plays across the back line. Yes, he goes up the pitch now and then, but he isn't one of those to create that positive kind of forward pass momentum a lot of the time. He'll try, but sometimes he isn't fast enough to see the pass, so he passes backwards. He does hold the ball up and slow the game down a lot. That's his style, though. He controls the pace of the ball and the teams around him, because that's his style of football. And I would have him in my team every day of the week because of the effort. You know, I really, really, really would. It's just my personal opinion on how a right back should play. Like how I want my right back to play would be a bit more positive thinking with the going forward, passing wise. Nothing about his ability running up. Nothing about his crossing ability. I'm just saying that little bit of his game is why I'm critical of him at times out of us four here. But
listen, I can get the criticism, and
it's something to do with Coyle depends who he's playing with on the right.
I do, but that's also the thing. I think he needs a partner that he can trust or know better. Because I'm not saying he doesn't trust Bloomy, because Bloomy's quality in my eyes. Unfortunately, we've lost him for the season with the ACL, but it still comes across that he hasn't made a partnership with him yet, and they're not on the same wavelength. And the same goes for the central midfield. Or say central midfield. What central midfield? But it's those type of partnerships where he hasn't got them. He's only got that one directional kind of partnership with the centre backs like Jones, because he knows Jones inside out. He's played with him long enough. That's
not Louis Coyle's fault. That's the fault of the structure that we've had in pre-season and the recruitment side, and not getting players in quick enough to get them to play together. So I think last season we had. I mean, me and Ant was talking off air before you two came on, and I think the situation is, for me, Ant disagrees a little bit with me, but I don't think at the moment we're a team. I think we're a squad. I think that we've got a lot of work to do before I would call us a team. Ant says that, they are playing for each other, and they maybe are, but I'm with you, Christine. I don't think they have played together enough to understand each other's game.
No, I agree with that.
It's a weird one, because I think it's really hard to gel a team of players together, like you say, that have not played it together before, or even in a new country for a lot of them, in a new league. But the system is what holds them back. I mean, if you watch the West Brom game, we didn't actually play that badly. I thought we were actually probably the better team over the course of the game. And you've just got to you look at the players, and they did for 90 minutes. They ran their socks off. They tried to get the ball in the box. They tried to create chances. You can see that they're all playing for each other. You can just also see that lack of confidence comes because they're not believing in the system. That's the way I interpret it, from their body language on the pitch, from the style of play, the decisions they make, interviews, everything. You can sort of piece it together. And to me, the players aren't a fan of what he's asking them to do. Either that, or they can't do what he wants them to do. So it's creating them a bit of anxiety on the pitch and stuff. But this is a team that I think if you give to any competent manager at this level, and brings in a nice balanced system like what we've seen in the past, like normal managers play, like 2 sitting midfielders, 3 in behind a striker, something like that. This team is easily, I think, if you have them from the start of the season, top half. I don't think we'd bother the top 6, but I think we're a top half team in terms of quality and technical ability. At the moment, we're level on points to the bottom 3, and that's because of the tactics being used. I think that they are a team that will work hard for each other. We know that. We've got a good spine. Look at Alfie Jones, Regan Slater, Louis Coyle, players like that. They've been here for years. We know we're going to get hard working. We've got a good mixture of creativity. At the minute, it's just been held back by what is absolutely ludicrous tactics. And I think that's shown on the pitch week in, week out.
I think it's that thing of not being willing to change, your style at all, and not being flexible. And I said earlier, in this league, you've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to change it if you need to, and adapt your play if you need to. And he just won't change the way that he's playing. But that being said, I agree with what you said. And I think, on Sunday, I went away from the game reasonably happy, if that's the words that I could use. I didn't go away as annoyed on Sunday as I have done from some other games, because I thought the effort was there. I thought it was a little bit unlucky. We've hit the bar. He should have headed the ball in, should Slater. We've scored an own goal. We're unlucky not to come away with at least a draw from that game. So, I was happy with how we'd played. I was obviously annoyed at the result. Does it get Volta to lose his job? Well, that remains to be seen. And we've all been, looking at the social media, looking at the City account to see if anything's happening. And we thought that something might happen before tonight's podcast, and it hasn't happened yet. So we're still in, limbo a little bit. And the longer it goes on, the less time a new manager's got to come in and work with the players during this international break for me. And that's my thoughts on what's going on at the moment. I've got a few other things that I'd like to discuss tonight. I saw Ant had posted on Twitter earlier about the restructuring and what Ant believes is going to happen with the restructuring, I'm slightly annoyed with it, to be quite honest with you, because I think it desperately needs somebody from outside the club to come in and to take a role and to take hold of the club and try and do something with us. Because at the moment, we're not in a good position off the pitch. We're not in a good position on the pitch. You know, it's probably, I would have said earlier before Ant tweeted that Adam Pearson leaving Hull FC, he would have been the ideal person to come in and take Tan's place and maybe stabilise the club. Even if it was only for a short period of time, I think that he could come in and stabilise the club because he knows football, he knows the Championship, he's got a lot of contacts in the game. I think that he could do some really good stuff. And the thing with Adam Pearson is he would come in and he would sort out the mess that's going on behind the scenes. Because if you're promoting from within at the moment and you're expecting these people to run your club with the way that we are at the moment, then I'm afraid you're getting it wrong. And that's my thoughts.
No, you're right. You are right. It's one of those where it's like you need someone with the knowledge and the experience and the contacts and the know-how, and you need someone that might have that bit more stick up them to kind of, I guess, educate Adjan a bit more about the league, I guess, because it's still a bit here and there and everywhere. And someone who's just going to kind of take that charge for the club with the experience that they've already gained. I mean, going back to, like, say, Sunday, that was the thing I saw the most, like you say, with how we played was there was fight from the players. I could see the fight. But when it came down to right after half time and we started at the second half, I don't know what was said in the changing rooms, but it's like we started really slowly again. And it's kind of that, what is the setup behind the scenes at the moment? Because everything just seems to kind of go backwards after a few minutes. And if it's affecting the pitch, obviously is somewhat not right behind the scenes. I mean, we all know there isn't anyway after the departure of Tan. And it is beginning to get a bit worrisome. I mean, I am getting a bit concerned that we've had no kind of action yet regarding management stance, as in, even if Tim isn't going, I would still have expected something from Adjan or the club by now.
Yeah, because the comments that he made upset some fans, and I think he tried to get the fans back on side a little bit with his interview after the game on Sunday, but ultimately it needs probably somebody like, as you say, somebody like a Jun to come on and say, look, you know, he made a comment that it was taken out of context because he doesn't speak, you know, English in his first language, and because of that, it was taken out of context a little bit, and he wasn't having a go at the fans, and he didn't mean it or something like that. And that's what you would need from somebody strong behind the scenes to come out and say that, which hasn't happened, as you say. And it's stupid that it hasn't happened yet, because ultimately, you know, people are upset now with what he said, and nobody's come out and said, well, he didn't actually mean it. And he's not come out and said he didn't actually mean it because he probably don't know to do that, because he's not read the situation as well as he should. I don't know.
Sunday was just nuts,
though, wasn't it?
After
Very
the
media
interview.
savvy, to be honest.
No, he's not.
Agree.
He needs media training. He needs media training.
I think, you know, it's not good even answering that what went wrong today, or what do you think? He just doesn't give any good answers, I don't think. You know, so I don't know whether he should even come out and speak to the media. I know they have to, like somebody, but it might be worth sending somebody else instead of him, because I've listened to his interviews and none of them seem to inspire you or anything. You know, they just, you know, he don't seem to do anything realistically with his interviews. And I think this comment he made about the supporters probably fits into that sort of role, that he just doesn't really know what to say. I don't think maybe in Hamburg where he was before, they don't have him on, on wireless or wherever they are after the match and things like this. I don't know, but he just certainly doesn't seem to give me any sort of inspiration one way or the other. He doesn't do anything, I don't think, right with the media, and I think this is part and parcel of the problem he's had. I know it's his first language in English, obviously, but you get other managers coming on and talking a lot better than him and talking more sense about the game and what goes on. Even if he says, whatever, he always says, if we'd have stuck to the system, we would have done better. And that's not an answer, is it? It's just a silly answer all the time. And I think that's one of his big problems. So I think they should get either some media training or somebody else coming in instead of him if he's going to stay. And like you, I think they should have come out with a statement, or they should be coming out one way or the other saying, he's keeping his job, or he's, obviously we're getting rid, sort of thing. Because it's not good on people if they're in limbo a little bit, are they? Especially the supporters. They don't like this limbo. I think, like everybody seems to think, he'd get sacked after the match against West Brom, and nothing's come out of it. It just seems to be a bit. And nothing's happening at the moment, is it? And it's disappointing, I think. Even if they come out and said, look, he's staying with us, we're happy with the way things are going, we're not getting rid of him, the players are happy, whatever you want to come out with, and just get on with it, and instead of this sort of void that seems to be at the moment.
And you've heard a bit about the restructuring. Tell us what you're hearing from your sources.
Well, from what I've been told personally, the other half of it was Joe. I've been told that Jared Dublin's been promoted from head of recruitment to sporting director. That's the one that I've been told. The rest is for other people to think about. But it's one of those where because we've apparently had a word with Stephen Schumacher about coming in, which tells me that the club are starting things in motion to get rid of Walter if they're already approaching other managers and making sure they've got somebody to come in. And obviously he worked with Jared Dublin at Stoke. So they apparently got on. I mean, I think apparently Baz said after one of the games when someone asked about Schumacher, he said that he won't come here because they didn't get on. And apparently that's not true. It was John Walters that didn't get on with him. These two apparently had a really good working relationship with each other. So if he's been promoted into a new role, maybe that's in preparation for him to work alongside Schumacher in a more advanced role because they know each other and the things like that. They probably got the same list of players from when they were at Stoke together. That's my belief on it. I think that the restructuring thing is what's delaying the Tim Walter announcement. Personally, that's just what I'm picking up from social media because there's no way that they've looked at, the mood from the fans, social media, what's happening on the pitch, what's happening in the stands, how defensive Tim's getting in interviews, and they can't be looking at all of that combined and going, yeah, we can give this guy more time because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, because the longer we keep him, the more damage the next person has to repair. So do they want to be in a relegation scrap this season? If the answer is yes, then keep him because we will be in a relegation scrap with this manager. But if they want a new guy and they've got to get it sorted because they've got 2 weeks now without a game where a new manager can come in and work with his players without the distraction of having a match, instead of the one day that he gave him, ironically, before the Luton game, when he sacked Shotter after the international break the day before. You've got to give him time to come in and do it. So they need to pull the finger out, I think. I'm expecting it this week. If they decide to keep him, I just think it's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, maybe question marks of whether we can afford to sack him. We don't know, what's going on behind the scenes. They had to pay Rossi off. He just signed a 3-year deal, so that'd be a nice handsome fee. Volta signed, a 2 or 3 year deal as well, so that'll be another handsome fee to pay off. We don't know what's going on, and then, like you say, it's the lack of communication that's maybe causing more of the rumours to swirl. Fans aren't happy. Players just don't look like they're buying into it and things like that. All of that combined. Something needs to change. Something needs to be clarified. And I just think with the restructuring, maybe they announce Volta goes, then they announce the new restructuring and say this is the new guy who's going to be head coach or whatever it is. I don't know whatever they want to word it as. But
what's your thoughts on the restructuring from internal? And do you think it's good enough, or do you think there should be somebody from outside coming in to try and do something with the club?
Well, I'd just like to think whoever they give the jobs to are competent at what they do. Like, don't give it them just because it's easy to do. Give it them because they've earned it on merit and because it's a job that they can perform really, really well. Adrian clearly needs somebody to run the club for him whilst he's in Turkey the majority of the time. And that needs to be a person who's cool, calm, collected, knows what he's doing, understands the English league, and knows how to suggest to go in different places with the club and stuff. Because if not, Adrian clearly is very, very big on making impulsive decisions that maybe aren't the best long term. I think he thinks too short term. Adrian, he's like, yes, we'll do this and it'll fix it. Whereas he needs somebody to be like, maybe a board of people with him. I mean, they've just said that apparently they were meeting in Turkey with the hierarchy. I don't know who the hierarchy is at Hull City. Can someone tell me? Because I just thought it was Adrian. I mean, it's just him sat at a table with himself talking about
with a mirror.
But it's something there needs to be a team of people that run this football club and make decisions as a team rather than just having one guy who says this is what we're going to do, because we're just every year we're just a bit of a basket case, aren't we? It's huge turnover of players, constantly making rash decisions in terms of management, no real clear direction, style of play is a bit bizarre. We need stability and consistency, and we've not had it since the takeover, I don't think.
No, I think you're right in what you say there. We definitely not had it since the takeover. And the thing that worries me, like, as you said, is that he's got so many businesses. In Turkey, he's a media mogul. He's now vice president is his title of Fenerbahce. So he's obviously spending time out there. There was a lot of talk on Twitter about him not being at the game on Sunday, and there's some people putting, that it didn't matter that he wasn't there. And I'm in disagreement with those people, because I think Sunday did matter that he was not there, because Tan's not there because he's gone. There's a problem with the manager that the fans, obviously the Meddecells heard quite well at Oxford away. He was a bit lucky on Sunday, I think, Volta, because he didn't get as much flack as I thought he was going to get. But I think that the owner needed to be there as a show of solidarity, or, something to the fans to show, look, I'm here for you. And not turning up to that game, to me, was a big mistake.
No, I agree.
Yeah, the Fenerbahce thing's taking it is sort of what he wants to do. Is Fenerbahce, he's always wanted to be there. He's a supporter of theirs, isn't he? And now he's got to be, vice president, you say. Obviously, I think he wants to spend more time at Fenerbahce, and I don't know. It's not a good position at the moment for Hull City to be in, with the owner being vice president of a, top club in Turkey, and we're struggling at the foot of the championship, and he's got a manager that's not popular. He'd maybe get away with it a little bit if he had a popular manager and they was doing okay, but they're near the bottom. I say it's only goal difference keeping us out of the bottom three. I think he does need to be a bit more here, more than Fenerbahce, to be honest, because they'll probably finish in the top 2 or 3, won't they, if he doesn't turn up to another game. So, we need a bit of stability behind the scenes, and the owner obviously is the person that you look to at the moment. He's not there, is he? There's nobody sort of strong enough in the behind the scenes to sort of grasp hold of everything, because he's the sort of main man, and he's not here. And I think he does need to be here, and putting more of his sort of influence into our club rather than Fenerbahce. But it is what it is, I suppose.
Well, we can only look. I agree with both points, and I'm always on the ropes regarding this conversation. I've had it quite a bit this week. Exactly the same, where I do agree that on Sunday, Adrian should have been there, only because of the state we're in at the moment, and it would have been very nice for him to actually not only kind of see what's going off, but also hear it from the fans' perspective, because I guarantee, though the fans were, like you said, Eddie, the fans were pretty nice. If Adrian was there and noticed, I think the volume would have gone up a bit more with respect to what would have been said and what everybody wants fan base wise. So that's one thing that I do feel that Adrian should have been there. However, at the same time, as like a normal owner, you're going to expect him not to be at 1 or 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
Or even a few more. And we can't lie, Adrian is Mr. Busy. We know he's Mr. Busy. And he is literally the Turkish ambassador. He's bringing all the players over. He's going all over the place. He's pulling fans over to the training camps over there. He's doing everything because he loves where he's from. Yes, Fenerbahce is his love club, let's call it, his love club. And Hull is the club he's taken over because he's always wanted a club that he could get over into the Premier League. He's stated that, and I agree. I mean, what owner doesn't want his club to be in the Premier League? But the timing of him not arriving. I think Sunday was a very important game for him to be at. And I mean, I can't really say if he was at Fenerbahce doing everything for Fenerbahce on that Sunday. We don't know. We don't know what he was doing because it's been the silent treatment, which is killing the fans, and it's obviously working everybody up at the moment because of that silent treatment. And I think we are just all kind of praying that he's heard us what's being said, because at the moment I think we're all getting a bit impatient with the lack of response and action being taken fans base wise. I mean, I am, because I like you said, Eddie, this break right now, if you're going to get a manager in, you need it done now.
Yeah,
because it's before the game. You've got a couple of weeks to sort about. Well, 10 days. Is it 10 days? I think somewhat along those lines, 9-10 days. And it's the best time to kind of go, right, okay, let's do me a favor, lads. Forget everything you've just learned and let's start fresh, shall we, please? Because you want them to forget what they've just learned under Tim.
Even if you're not going to appoint somebody, because for me, this appointment is a big deal. It needs to be the right person. It can't just be anybody.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's got to be the right person. So if you have to take your time at making the appointment, and you're going to get rid of Volta, then for me, what you do is you put somebody like Andy Dawson. I'm just plucking Andy Dawson out the air, by the way. It could be anybody, but you put somebody like Andy Dawson in caretaker charge, like most clubs do. Most clubs put somebody in caretaker charge for a little bit of time until they get the person in that they want. And if you lose a few games under Andy Dawson, you lose a few games under Andy Dawson. It still gives you time to make the right appointment instead of rushing something. But for me, the sensible thing to have done would have been to have finished him after the West Brom game, because it's the international break. Say to Andy Dawson or whoever, I'm not saying Andy Dawson has to be the one, whoever comes in, just say to him, right, can you take charge of this club for 2 to 3 weeks or whatever it is until we get another in place? We think he's going to be the best person for the job. We've thought about it really hard, and this time we need to make the right appointment. So I want you to just look after it for a few weeks. And they'll say, yeah, great, no problem, I'll do it. They know they're not under any pressure, because if they lose, it doesn't matter, because they're only in charge for a few games. Probably takes a bit of pressure. You probably go win a couple of games too, and taking the pressure off them and letting them do that. I do think that this problem of him not coming to the game on Sunday, and I get everybody's comments when they're saying that he shouldn't attend every game. I understand he's a busy man. I don't expect him to be at every game. I think that when you haven't got a strong backup, somebody to be your face of the football club, you've got a problem if you don't turn up. If he had a strong backup, somebody there who was the face of the football club, who's running it, as you said, and day to day, and is going to front up to the media or front up to whoever it is and give you the information that you need, then he's not under as much pressure. But at the moment, because of where we are, he's under so much pressure because there's nobody, as far as we know as fans, there's nobody running the football club day to day.
No, there isn't. And
I think he should have been there Sunday.
That is a brilliant question. I'll be honest with you, Coxie. Because as upsetting as it is, I think Walter is still going to be in charge at Luton. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
As upsetting as it's going to be.
Look at Adam's face. You're just really upset.
I agree, to be honest.
I was done with him 3 weeks ago.
Same.
I think most of us were, and you look at the appointments that John's made since he came into the club. He brought his mate in. Shorter, didn't do an awful lot. Liam Rossini comes in, and as much as I didn't enjoy the football last season, I look and I think, would our club have been more stable this season under Liam Rossini? And it definitely would have been more stable. I think, we would probably have a few more points on the board than we've got, because we'd have kept some more clean sheets for one thing. So, I think that Liam was trying to, I said this on the podcast last week, he was trying to build something, and he needed a little bit of guidance of what the owner wanted exactly and what he needed to do to keep his job. And I think ultimately he could have done a job this season. But, we can't look back. He's gone. We need somebody who can bring stability to the club, can get us some clean sheets, and maybe nick us 3 points when we score a goal. I know it's not a thing that we do very often, but, you never know with somebody else in charge. We might score a goal a bit more often than we are doing. But
the stability thing comes... It comes from getting, we've got rid of Liam Racine. I know I don't want to go backwards, but I don't think we'd have been bringing in 16 players necessarily as late as we did had he stayed. And I think that's the sort of stability side of it that we haven't had. We got a manager in who nobody knew, and all of a sudden there was dribs and drabs. I think had we had a manager who was there all the time, I don't think it'd have been quite as bad. We'd have brought a few players in, obviously, because we needed them. But I don't think there'd have been as dribs and drabs as it was. And it might have been different players anyway, I don't know. But I think that's the stability side of it, that we've got rid of a manager and put another manager in. He was a little bit late starting, and it was all sort of rush job, and I think that's had a big effect on us. I think I like saying he's the best manager, but we have had a rush job, haven't we? From sort of like July into August, it was just people coming in every so often, 2 or 3 players here, 2 or 3 players there. I don't think that would have happened under Rossini, because it would have been the stabilising sort of factor with him already being here. He would have had conversations about players, and then they got him in a bit quickly, better and quickly, I think. And I don't think it'd have been so bad, even if the football hadn't been any better. I think the fact that he was here, I think the fact that Walter's come, he doesn't really know the Championship. He obviously doesn't know the club, and all of a sudden he's had to deal with 16 players, which, I think it's just been poor. It's been poor management from the top down. I think John's got to take a fair bit of responsibility. And I think the Sunday game, he should have been there. Forget about Fenerbahce. He should have been there on Sunday. I know he's a busy man, but he's taken on the football club. We've lost Tan. We've got nobody running the ship, sort of thing. And he's at Fenerbahce. I think he should have been there on Sunday. It was a sort of big game for him to be there. I understand he ain't there every week. I can understand that, but some games you have to be at, and I think West Brom was one of them.
Yeah, I think we've obviously done this quite a lot, and we've talked it over quite a lot. It is a frustrating time to be a Hull City fan. It's a frustrating time if Tim Volter's still in charge come the next game. I think, personally, we do need a change. I think that we need somebody, as a lot of people have said on Twitter that I've been looking at, we need somebody with a bit of Championship experience that knows the Championship, rather than going for some unknown in the Championship again. Because I think if we do that, we're going to be probably relegated by the end of the season, if I'm honest. Because I think, it's okay bringing in somebody from abroad, but they don't know the Championship, they don't know the players. They've got they're fighting a losing battle as soon as they walk through the door. I do think that that could give us a relegation battle, but that's just my opinion. Have your say. It's good to see all your comments coming in tonight. You can WhatsApp us on 01482 772 663 if you're listening on the radio. Over to you now, Anne.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a mixture in the comments today. There are people saying that obviously Volta should have a lot more time. I mean, this one here from Munko Man, I had similar negative comments from Arsenal fans about Mikel Arteta. Obviously, he's not having the best of seasons this year, is he? Stop panicking. But I think you'll probably find that most Arsenal fans would be arguing that he's not won anything with them since taking over, and they don't look like they're going to win anything this season. And ultimately, they're a club that want to win things, so they're not comparable to us in this sense. But what my sort of threshold is with a manager is that to be successful as a manager, you have to have, and I'll say this I've said this every single episode on our podcast since Grant McCann, you have to have different ways of playing. You have to find different ways of winning, if that be because of the players you've got available, because of your current form, because of the opposition you're against and the way that they play. You have to change stuff to win games. And we don't have this. The problem with our squad this year, and this is something that's, Adrian's fault really, is that we didn't bring in any goal scorers. We let all of our goal scorers away without having any lined up. I look at that squad now. Can anybody in the comments, you three here, can any of you tell me one of those players gets more than 10 goals this year?
No, not a single one.
Last week.
So there's your problem. And what doesn't he do? He doesn't use the midfield. Where's our arguably most creative players? In the midfield. We don't use them. So how are we going to create goals to score if we're not using our most creative players? That's Tim Volter's fault. If you've got I've had people who aren't Hull City fans ask me this: what style of player do you play? You know, what's your style? I say, well, we pass it amongst the centre backs and the goalkeeper for about 75 minutes, and then we try and get it down either wing and just lump it into somebody, and it gets headed back out, and then we concede a sloppy goal, and then we just rinse and repeat. That's basically it. I said, but we don't use the midfield. And they said, what do you mean you don't use the midfield? That's crazy. No, we don't. We genuinely don't use the midfield. Simons drops deep to be a pivot, which we don't use, by the way. We use a goalkeeper instead. So he's just stood there for no apparent reason. Whoever's the two number 8s in that sense, so I think it was Puerta and Slater, they push out to the wide, and you've essentially got 3 wingers. You've got your fullback, your winger, and your fullback, centre midfielder, and a winger on each side. So you make like a horseshoe shape, basically. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I just, if you're not winning games, if you're not, keeping, I mean, we've had 1 clean sheet all season. That's horrendous. That already means that we have to score 2 goals a game just to win. Not sustainable in any way, shape, or form in the Championship. Is it sustainable to have to score 2 goals every single game just to win? You can't do it. And every single game, he's going to set up that way because he's stubborn, because this is my way and it will work. And that's what annoys me about his interviews as he comes out and he's not once this season has he taken responsibility or accountability that his system might be the problem. It cannot be the problem. In his head, everything else is wrong apart from what he's doing. The fans are wrong. The players are wrong. This isn't being done right. This needs to be done to perfection, and it's not. That's not a leader. I wouldn't want to play for him. He's blaming everybody else but himself. Like last season, Rossi was always the first one to come out on the radio and say, blame me. If a player made a mistake, Allsop made a mistake, for example, passed it to their striker and he scored. First thing Rossi would say, blame me. I asked him to play that way. It's my system. We know that that's going to happen sometimes. That's a leader. That's someone that players want to play for. Volta comes out, blames everybody but himself. And that to me, horrendous. And then coming out and obviously not failing to acknowledge fans, add all that on together. He's just not long term. It's never going to work for Volta. It isn't. That's my opinion. I mean, if people want to give him more time, all I would say is what from these games are suggested to anybody that within the next few months things would change. We're not getting the most out of some of the players we've got. Look at Ryan Giles, for example. We're having to play right back and left back. We don't use our midfielders. Our wingers, first choice wingers, are injured now, and we're still playing the same way and expecting, the backup wingers. We even played Burstow as a winger. I actually thought played really well there, and he's a forward having to play out of position, all because he won't change the system. Go to up front. That West Brom game could have been his last game to save his job. He didn't bring on another striker to the 87th minute, and he didn't even add him on. It was a straight swap, one striker for another. You need a goal. Chuck goal scorers on. He just don't do it. I cannot for the life of me see how it works long term with Tim Volta. Even if he miraculously got to the Premier League, what do people expect? He's going to play this way against Man City. We get Man City away first game of the season. We lose 11-0 because we play this obscene way. It's just I don't get it. I don't get what Adrian saw in him to appoint him in the first place. With Rosinia's sacking, I was indifferent. I'd have been happy for him to stay for another year to try and tinker it. But I can also understand why he was asked to go, because the style of play, obviously, at home we were horrendous. The style of play was quite boring and stuff. And if you are wanting to bring in a more entertaining style, then he wasn't the guy. But we got the replacement so wrong. You've got to get that replacement right. He does not play entertaining, attacking football in any way, shape or form. I don't mind watching the centre-backs pass it for 10 minutes between each other entertaining, do you?
I think it's a really strange one, to be quite honest with you, because when you think about this, he's made the appointment, he's took somebody out who wanted to play in a certain way and would only play in that way and wouldn't change it, and he's replaced him with somebody who plays in a certain way, will only play in that way and won't change it. You'd have thought, he'd have seen that, wouldn't you? You'd have thought making this appointment, surely he's got to have watched some of Volta's games, he's got to have interviewed him, he's got to have asked him the questions, and he must have given him these answers. This is the way I play. I'm never playing any other way. Even if we're losing 10-0, I'm not going to change the way we're playing. Surely that rings alarm bells straight away.
It's naive. It's just naive. He's come to the league expecting he's got a one-trick pony and it's going to work everywhere. I mean, it's been found out every game, and I just don't understand how we can't see that his tactics have been found out from every club. Every team we've played against, you can see how they set up. High pressure against our backline. You can see it. It's obvious. There's gaps in the middle. They aren't going to play out through the middle, as in we're not. And we're just going to cover the wings and then make it hard for them to cross the ball in and watch them pass it backwards and keep it back as much as they can. It is just naive. I mean, even that interview on Sunday after the game wound me up. It really wound me up. It, honest to God, I can't say what I was saying, but like Ant said, he's stubborn. He doesn't take responsibility and he blames everybody else. And it felt so fake at the end as well when he was talking about the fans and he went, "Oh, the fans were brilliant today." Are you kidding me? All because you've had a little telling off behind the scenes about what you said, and then all of a sudden it felt so fake. And it's obviously I can see the frustration in Ant when he was talking, and I've got the same frustration, and I am holding back. It's painful to see the club that you love so much just unfold. I think after the season we had, I mean, finishing 7th last season was a really good season for us, and no one can dispute that. It was a shame we didn't get promoted. And can I just say this as well? If we won those last few games and we got promoted, we would not be having this discussion right now. We all know this, and we probably retained some of the players. We probably would have put those big purchases in, like the Lap and everybody else like that, and we probably would have gone for Cavalier, and we wouldn't be here right now. But because we stayed, and we've lost everybody who we did, because obviously we were playing the loan market way too much, because the way we played, the way we set up last season as a club was that kind of invest everything for a quick win to get us to the Premier League. It was a gamble, and the gamble failed massively. Now we're paying for it with the full rebuild and everything.
And how many teams do you actually see that do pay for it with this situation? These
All of
loads that try and go for it and then end up in the situation that we're in. I was talking to one of my pupils today, and I was saying, you know, we've got Xavier Simons back this season. We've got Ryan Longman back this season. I think Simons has played really well this season. He's obviously scored 2 goals for us. He's bossing it in midfield. Longman came pre-season, looked really good. I thought when he came on Saturday, he looked really good. Why are we letting players like that go out on loan and then relying on the loan market ourselves when these players are going to have to go back? Surely it would have been in the club's interest to keep both of those players and to try and build a team and have some stability, rather than gambling like we are doing, or like we did do last season, to try and gamble everything on getting to the Premier League, when we all know how difficult it is to get to the Premier League. God, what did it take us to get to the Premier League? It was it 100 and something years?
Yeah.
104, wasn't it? 104 years to get to the Premier League. You know, it just goes to show you how hard it is to get there. So, you know, to gamble everything like we did was so silly. I'm so frustrated that we let good players like Xavier Simons, and, you know, I know not everybody rates Ryan Longman. Obviously, we know Nathaniel rates like Ryan Longman, but, you know, he's come in and he's shown that what he is, he's a grafter. And, you know, he will put a lot of effort in for the team. Same with Xavier Simons. And I think, you know, like we had comments earlier about Louis Coyle and about Regan Slater. I'd put Xavier Simons and Ryan Longman in the same sort of bracket as them. You know, you're going to get full effort off them every single game that you put them in the team.
It's tricky, though, because we're looking at them now, as in what we've just witnessed this season so far. If you went back last season or the previous seasons, would they have been what we're seeing now? They've probably, you know, going away to another club as players, they're there to learn something that the club just can't provide at that current time. Yes, you can teach them your system and things like that, but when it comes to game time, like full-on game time, we're not talking reserve games, under 21 games. We are talking, you know, maybe League 2 or League 1, where it is a bit more physical. They are learning that side of the game and then coming over to us. And we've reaped the benefits of it now.
That, you know, with that said, even Christian, Xavier Simons has come from Chelsea.
He has, but
he's
with
not
Xavier,
full.
with Xavier
What did he-
Simons, I mean, he did step in for Surrey 2 or 3 times, didn't he? When Surrey was, I don't know if he was injured or was at this Nations Cup they have, and he did really well. And then we get rid of him and get Morton. Now, I'm not knocking Morton; he's a good player, but
Yeah, I love
wouldn't
Morton.
Simons done a similar sort of job?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
so.
he was learning the job. He was with, Surrey was there at the time as well, who obviously, he was a really good player. I think probably was a mistake. The Longman one I can possibly understand. I think there was a lot of fans on Longman's back at the time. And I think probably he needed a bit of a break from Hull, to be quite honest, because he seemed to get a bit of flack, a bit like Coyle does, I think. If Coyle makes a mistake, he's rubbish. And I think the same thing applied to Longman quite a lot. There was, obviously I know Nathaniel loves him, but there's a lot who didn't like him. I think he maybe needed the break. But Simons, I think he played really well in Surrey's place. I think, we could have saved money on not getting Morton, and would have not been a loan then, would it? It'd be our player where we got Morton on loan. And as you say, we put all our eggs in the basket of going up last year, and we didn't manage it. So I don't know. I think sometimes you've got to take these people you sign and give them the chance. It does help. I mean, it's helped Greaves, hasn't it? He went down to Division 1, was it Division 2 or something, and come back a better player. And I think it does help him. But Simons had a bit of experience in the Championship when Surrey was out, and I thought he did really well in them games. And I think he was a young lad who could have learnt from Surrey. And obviously we had Slater as well. I think maybe getting Morton was a bit of a mistake. As I said, the Longman one, I can understand that to a degree, because I don't think he was everybody's cup of tea. I thought he was a decent player, but I think he's a lot of people upset a lot of people with some of the things he did on the pitch, and it was getting on his back a bit. So I think him going away somewhere else would have harmed him at all. But I don't like the loan market anyway. I think they're there to help the club, not to take over. And they're the ones who are playing every week, and your players who you've signed aren't playing. I don't like it, and that's what happened a lot last season.
But to be fair, most of our loans were some of our best players. That's the problem. The loan market, when used in the correct way,
Well, that's it. That's the trouble. But that's
be,
why he put all his eggs in that basket, didn't he?
Yeah, loans are meant to be short-term benefit, so they're meant to give addition to players that you've already got. But in regards to Simons and Longman, Longman had been a regular feature since he signed for us before he went on loan last season, and not once, I think, barring his initial loan spell before we signed him permanently, did we see anything that suggested he'd be good for us for another 40-odd games. I think his best goal-scoring season's 4. If you want a winger who's going to score and create goals, it's not really good enough, is it? So he did need that loan move to try and go and see if he can improve, and I don't think he scored more than 4 at Millwall again. He is, but he looks a much better player at the minute. I don't know if, obviously, long-term it's going to work for him, but he's got a chance now with Miller and Bellumi out that he can really stake a claim and show what he's about. But Simons, whenever he played, he looked promising. But you got to remember, he's a young player who's come from Chelsea. Rosini obviously didn't fancy him in that system. Andy was young, so to put that kind of pressure on a player who's just come from the Premier League, not playing regularly for them, he's obviously been in their youth squad for a 46-game season. Probably a bit too much for him, which is why they sent him on loan to go away and improve. And
then you bring in somebody from Liverpool who's a young lad who's come from the Premier League and not had much playing time with them. So you've just replaced one with exactly the same thing.
No, because he played the entire season for Blackburn. He played 40-odd games for Blackburn the year before in the Championship. So we knew he had Championship experience before that. I think he played near enough every single game for Blackburn last year. So Rosini knew that he had the potential to play another 46. He wanted durable players who've been at this level, experienced it, know how to play it. And look, he ended up in the England under-21 setup. So he's obviously a player who's been on their radar before. And in terms of class, he was obviously higher in the pecking order than Simons was. And in that short-term basis over the year, would have given us a better option than Simons. It's very easy to have this question to have this discussion because it's something that didn't happen. So we're talking about hypotheticals. If they'd have stayed, would we have been any better? I don't think we would have done. If we'd have had both of them last season instead of Morton or whoever, we probably wouldn't have even been in a playoff chase, and then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's one of them. Like the loan market last season benefited us greatly. Look at Cavallio. If we didn't have him from January onwards, we'd have probably finished in the bottom half because we couldn't score goals without Delap. He was the only one providing it because we should.
You see, we'll disagree here again, Ant, because we ain't got long left on the radio. By the way, 2.5 minutes. But I wouldn't have had Carvalho in my starting 11.
Oh, I definitely would have.
That's mad to me.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm not bothered whether anybody thinks I'm mad. I would have had Noah Ohio as a proper goal scorer in my starting 11 ahead of Carvalho last season.
Yeah,
all
Carvalho
season
played
long.
in the number 10. He didn't play as the forward.
Yeah.
No, but we didn't play forward.
We played Billy Sharp.
We didn't play
Billy Sharp. Billy Sharp didn't play.
No.
We played Tufan there. We played Tufan.
We didn't play with a striker. We should have played with the striker, and the striker should have been ahead of Carvalho. Carvalho scored so many goals because he was playing more or less in the striking role a lot of the time that he played. He ended up playing as our front man, and that's why he ended up scoring the goals, because he was playing as the front man. But, you know, that was where Rossini made a massive mistake last season because he didn't play with the striker. You know, should have played with the striker.
Definitely should have played Ohio a lot more than he did, and he shouldn't have put as much faith in him.
And probably, you know, I probably would have had Carvalho in the team, but not as a striker.
But we played Tufan as the false nine, didn't we? If you go back and look at the lineups, you'll see that Carvalho's in the 10 and Tufan was the striker, technically.
But whether he's there or not, Carvalho played as a striker most of the game. Tufan tended to drop back in more and leave Carvalho further forward.
But
I think the annoying part is we had strikers on the bench and he never played them, did he? He played somebody else who isn't a striker in that position, and it was probably his undoing. But I still think Simons would have done a good job. Whether he's as good as Morton or not, I think he'd get experience. He had Seri with him, Slater, and, you know, we didn't need to go and get Morton. Because, I mean, he scored 2 goals this season already, hasn't he? I don't think Morton, did he score 2 goals for us? He maybe did.
Yeah, you did. Did he? Or was it
one of them was England? On 4, I think.
Yeah.
But that's over a season. He's played, 11, 12 games in a poorer team as well.
Yeah.
And he's already scored 2, and he hit the bar on Sunday. It could have been 3. So I think Simons, you know, he was a bit let down. I agree with the long one. He needed time out. I really agree with that. But I think Simons could have done the job for us, just as good as Morton.
Anyway, listen, just let's finish the radio off, because radio's nearly at the end of the show. Thanks for joining us on Target Talk this week. We'll be back next week on Humber Wave Radio. Hope you've enjoyed it. You can come and join us on the podcast. We'll stay on for a bit longer, and you can listen again at humberwave.com.
I let you in a secret that you...
There we go. I'll get rid of that, and then we ain't got all that going on in the background. So, you know, listen, I think, listen, it's all about opinions. Danny's opinion is that Morton's miles better than Simon.
I'm with Danny on that one. I was a huge fan of Morton.
It's all about opinions, and, you know, I think there's not much between them, if that's how we're putting it. There is not much between Simons and Morton. I think they're much of a muchness. They're very close to, you know, each other's playing styles. I think, you know, you're going to get the same effort out of both of them players. I don't think there's an awful lot in between them, to be quite honest. And I think that signing somebody on loan, our problem at the moment, the reason that we're in the state that we're in this season is because we're paid a lot of money to a lot of players on loan, and we ain't got much to play with this season. So we could have saved ourselves some money. Instead of sending Simons out, who was our player, and getting Morton in, we could have saved some money there.
I don't think we really played that much for Morton, to be fair. I don't think.
Yeah, I think Morton was quite cheap.
Carvalho, the expensive one.
I'm sure Carvalho was the expensive one. I'm sure that he cost us a lot of money.
We signed the winger from Burnley and we hardly played him, did we?
Yeah, and that was another one of mine that I said earlier. You know, why we spent that money on him, I've no idea. It was silly.
He was a waste. Tomorrow was a waste.
Yeah,
I will agree on that. He was just. He did.
Even
he started
more so
off
because they pushed Philogene out of his favoured position to accommodate him into the team.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, which was just crazy at the time as well.
And this is not just about the manager. This is about what we've talked about earlier in the podcast. It's all about from the top right the way down where the problem is, and you need somebody strong at the top to manage this club. And if we're promoting from within, I really, really worry for the club at the moment, because as much as these guys will do a good job, and I'm sure they work really hard at the club at the moment, to me, they're not strong enough to come in and actually run a championship football club that's obviously wanting to be in the top 6, because we saw this last season. They want to be in the top 6. And if you want to be a top 6 championship club, you need somebody very strong behind the scenes to be running the club. And, you know, I don't see that from anybody that's been touted at the moment from being promoted from within.
Well, that's it. That's true. Because, I mean, the radio silence as well from the club is just, it's just a concerning thing because, like I say, being promoted within, no news coming out from anywhere, it's starting to fill doubt in the air. And obviously, media's loving it as well. You know, from every,
there's a story every day for the media, isn't there?
Exactly. And when has Hull never been in that storm? So, I mean, look, I think one of the biggest problems as well, let's put aside, you know, ownership and that. And I want to look at a bit of last season compared to this one. Though we didn't score loads of goals last season, we scored. But we didn't concede many.
No.
And conceding week in, week out it's just killing us. It's killing us. And I don't want to say it's anything to do with the defenders because I don't think it is individuals.
No,
I truly don't. You look at the players we've got. They did it last season. I mean, it's almost identical at the back with Coyle and Jones. Hughes is coming. Anyone going to like slate Hughes? They're not. Okay. Left back at the moment, we've had Drame fill in. Okay.
I think Drame is the best selection that we've got at the moment.
As a left back.
I would actually like to raise Alfie Jones. I think he's gone under the radar for how bad he's been this season. I think he's had the biggest fall off.
Yeah, but he's played completely different. He's been played completely different, and like if you look at the stats from last season of when he had the ball and his long balls out wide, you know, he was the guy that you passed to get that creative ball direct pass to. That was his job last season. You got it, did a bit of footwork, boom, out, bish bash bosh, real good nosh. Now it's get the ball, right, I want you to run around, do a little spinny dance around somebody else, hold his hand and do the cha-cha and come back in and out, and let's play the ball backwards to Pando and then do a little wiggle and pass it to Hughes and then come backwards to Pando.
You've been watching Strictly Come Dancing or something here, Christian?
I am every bloody Saturday when I'm watching all at the moment because the ball is going back and around and left to right. And it's killing us, isn't it? I mean, I'm saying this from me, and it is just so frustrating to watch a team of, I'm saying this as individual players that we have. I think we have some really quality players, like quality. Like these are top half of the table players to promotion to even some potential Premiership players in the squad. But they're just not played right.
We did get a WhatsApp about 10 minutes ago that I missed, but Andrew puts on the WhatsApp, did Rossini see the writing on the wall in conversations immediately after the Plymouth game? Was it a bit of saving face from John saying he wanted attacking football, what Rossini couldn't provide, when actually Rossini didn't like what he was hearing re Fenerbahce and the team that he would have this season compared to this season? Think we haven't got decent loans because the clubs didn't trust John, and Tan like they did when Rosie was here.
Well, I semi-agree. I do semi-agree. I think if we didn't have the full rebuild, we would have been a bit more attractive to clubs. I don't want to say anything really badly about Ajun and things like that. It is definitely more down to the full change and how we're setting up now with new players. If you're got a club that doesn't have any harmony to it at the moment because they're that fresh, would you want to send one of your players to Hull City knowing that they're going into a storm? Because it's that much of a mess with no cohesion and being that much. You just wouldn't, as an owner of a club or a manager of another club, you just won't send your players to us at the moment on loan.
You can apply that logic to managers at the minute as well, by the way. Would any righteous manager want to look at us and go, I'll take on that job.
They always say that, don't they, Ant? But they always seems to
No,
be
but yeah,
a good amount of applications, don't they?
Yeah, you'll always get managers that are out of work that will happily take it on. But what I'm saying is, will you get a manager of the caliber that you really want to take you to get promoted to take the job when they've seen what happened to Rosinia? I think say for example, say Mark Robbins is available right now. I don't think he is, by the way. I think he takes the rest of the year off because he was at COP for 7 years. But imagine he's available immediately. We can say to him, "Do you want to come here?" He would say no because he's mates with Rosinia, so he'd instantly be like, "Well, no, I've seen what you did to him. I'm not having that done. What 7th place wasn't good enough for you last season? Now you're all right. Cheers, thank you."
He's even probably spoke to Rossi as well. He's probably spoke to Rossi about everything behind the scenes. So he wouldn't.
Yeah,
he's one manager.
Ruud van Nistelrooy has left Man United. He's available as a manager. He was willing to drop to the Championship because he almost signed for Burnley. Do you think, honestly, we could lure him here? I don't think we could. I don't think
the dream is yes. The dream's yes.
Immediately, he's under pressure.
It's a dream.
Rosinia got sacked for finishing 7th. He then has to come in and be like, well, what's my minimum requirement then? I must have to get promoted. And then instantly things change because you haven't got a relaxed sort of project build. You've got I don't know. I don't quite know what
this season just has to be, stability, try and get us mid-table, not finishing near the bottom 3. That's all this season has to be for anybody, doesn't it?
That's all it was for Rosinia at the beginning.
It's a little bit like, when Phil Brown took over from Phil Parkinson. Fair season stability.
It's an exact same carbon copy of what we did with Shorter Avaladze. We got rid of McCann, we got Avaladze in. Then his start to the season was really poor the next year.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
We got rid of him in, this international break, by the way, the day before Luton, which is...
Yeah.
And then Rosinia came in, and his aim was, we're heading towards the bottom 3 and our defence is terrible. Can you stabilise us? Yeah, of course. Our defence is terrible this season and we're near the bottom 3. It is a literal carbon copy. So if another manager did come in and was to steady the ship this year, what's their aims next year? That's what managers are thinking because they're looking at what Rosinia did. Going, he came in, stabilised them, did really well. Then the next year they finished 3 points outside the top 6, but he was sacked for that. So what's my aims next season if I keep him up? And then that's what I mean. That's what puts people, I think, top managers off from the job. I think we'll get a solid Championship manager to be able to sign. I think someone like Schumacher would realistically come here. I think you could probably tempt Ruben Sellers from Reading or the Bloomfield from Wickham. Somebody who's got a bit of, I want to prove myself at that level. But a manager who you think probably would get you into top 6 / promotion contention next season, I don't think takes it because of the pressure. They don't know what Adjin's going to do. You take our Hull City specs off for a minute. What do we look like as a club to a neutral? So since Adjin's been, you've had a different manager every year and a half.
Yeah.
And a different set of players every year as well. So.
No, it don't look. Listen, I think during this podcast tonight and the radio show, we've sort of said, haven't we, that the club's a mess, and the club is a mess.
Stability's got to come from the top, hasn't it?
Of course, it has.
As you say, we're on our 3rd, probably going to go into our 4th manager in a short period of time. That's not stability, is it? Especially when Rosinia did stabilise things. Whether he liked his football or not, he did stabilise things. And, that's what you need. You need a stable team, stable sort of, club. And we haven't got one at the moment. We've got Chan's gone. The managers, the owners at Fenerbahce a lot. The manager's not liked by anybody. Don't think they've, as you said, the players even enjoy playing for him.
Even his mum don't like him. It's that bad.
She will do. Mum's always love him. But it's not. There's nothing stable, and that's what as Ant says. You need a manager wants to come in, feel there's a bit of stability about. I can have a semi go at keeping them up this season and push on next season, and have a go and see how it goes, rather than I have to get in the top 6 next season. And it's ludicrous. You've got to have stability from the top.
We've had a good go at it tonight. We've been on for a long time. I'll just finish on this note because it'll get a lot of reaction. Get Adam Pearson in tomorrow. Give him the job. Let him stabilise the club and let us get a new manager in before the end of this transfer window and finish mid-table this season. That'd be absolutely wonderful. And just score a few more goals, please. Concede a few less. That'd be great. I've been Eddie, right?
I've been Chris.
Paul, right?
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week, 7 o'clock here on To Hull and Back and on Tiger Talk on Humber Wave Radio.